what I've seen over the last 2 days is there's a vast amount of Christianity that are no friend of the Jews.
And the Jews are still holding on to the dream that we are going to build a temple in Jerusalem that will be a blessing to the world, a blessing to all those nations that are coming to attack us.
Tuna has mercury. That's why I'm getting more and more sardines. And then I see that one of our great listeners, Chuck, who I'm very grateful for, he just gave me an entire box of sardines. This is waiting on my table for me. So I didn't mention that also leading up to these days, we need to hoard gold.
Hello and welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should always be connected to the land and the people of Israel. Guys, welcome back to the podcast on a Thursday, February 19th. Happy to have you with us. Make sure you subscribed and let us know in the comments if this is your first time watching or listening. Always happy to have you here with Joshua Waller, Ari Abramowitz, Jeremy Gimpel. I figured, it's always tough to know how to start an hour-long podcast, and I wanted to read Ari's comment from Tuesday this week to start things off, because it feels like it represents where the world's at right now. I didn't tell you I was going to do this, Ari, but you sent a one of the many news headlines from this week, and it was from War.
We have a little group. We aggregate
we put together ideas for the show, and it basically says Chinese and Russian warships have reportedly been dispatched to the Strait of Hormuz for maritime exercises. This could escalate fast. I checked. That is indeed true. But your comment afterwards was, "This is it, gentlemen. This is leading up to Hashem's great day. Mark my words."
Well, I just want to make something clear. This morning at 5 a.m.,
I was about to ask you to tell this. Yeah,
I have an intercom between me and my kids' room so I can hear them if they wake up. And then I started hearing beep, 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 which means that it's no longer connected, which means there's no electricity. And I look out the window, and the entire region of southeastern Judea is without electricity. So I'm thinking, This could be it. Now, I'm not the only apocalyptic alarmist in Judea, and so I reached out to some friends, and someone's like, the war has begun. So I jump out of bed. The reason I'm wearing like this, you see, I have my army uniform on, because I got my whole uniform on. I got my weapon ready, my vest ready, the safe room ready. I'm preparing everything, and then I was like, wait a second, it's that guy? That guy said, and I said, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, the war's begun. There's fires in Tehran right now. There's more than one way to fight a war in 2026. I'm like, okay, don't conflate your speculation with fact. Look what you just did to me. I'm totally mobilized based on this guy. The point is, though, that it's very plausible. We're in the days leading up to that, and for people who are like writing messages saying, listen, America's going to smoke Iran. I'm not so sure that it's just going to be like it was last time, meaning China, Russia, they're ready. We've spoken about this on the show. Like they have their military assets under the guise of maritime military exercises, but they're really just making sure that it's mobilized there. And also, if they're in that region and there is some sort of fallout where their ships get accidentally attacked or intentionally attacked by them, even they have now a pretext to enter this war. We're talking about a big thing happening here. We're on the cusp. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, I've heard about EMP over America and knocking out all the power, right? And you talked about that on Fox News like 12, 15 years ago, and you reached millions of people through that. You never talked about an EMP over Israel. That's basically what you were thinking happened this morning when your power was all out.
I just remember that up to this point when Iran was always attacks military infrastructure, or electrical infrastructure for the country. They're aimed at that also. In addition to like civilian spots, they're aimed at that.
You don't see that as the threat for Israel?
It's not that it couldn't be a threat. I just don't see that happening or playing out. I don't. But on the last show, I started one of my ADHD sentences saying, tuna has mercury. That's why I'm getting more and more sardines. And then I see that one of our great listeners, Chuck, who I'm very grateful for, he just gave me an entire box of sardines. This is waiting on my table for me. So I didn't mention that also leading up to these days, we need to hoard gold.
Okay, before we get too far down the apocalyptic conspiracy rabbit hole, just to, you guys, there's a reason that Jeremy and I sit on this side of the table, and Josh and Ari sit on that side. So I want to bring it back to this side of the table. Maybe, Jeremy, you could tell us what you were doing when Ari was preparing for war this morning.
I read that the U.S. is sending the greatest amount of air power since 2003 to the region. And I'm like, wow, the greatest amount of air power, like enough planes to really create chaos. And then I went to bed and slept until the morning.
That's right. Well, I mean, just in Jeremy's defense, when we were actually truly under assault by massive swath of intercontinental ballistic missiles that were detonating with what felt like nuclear blasts in the atmosphere right over Israel, with missiles landing in our region, literally falling from the sky, he had the same response.
Yeah, just
literally the same, which I'm not bashing him for. On one level, that is a sign of great faith and trust, and on the other level,
rooftop.
It's just a.
I went to my rooftop because
was.
We didn't have a bomb shelter back then, so I was like, "You might as well die in the open," so and see the show. But
right, I never went into the bomb shelter, but I would put my family into the bomb shelter, and then I was always patrolling and protecting the area. So there was a reason I wasn't there.
So just to tell you guys what we're not going to talk about today. And we're not going to spend the whole show talking about how the U.S. is gathering the most air power in the Mideast since 2003, or that Reuters is reporting all U.S. military forces participating in the ongoing Middle East buildup are expected to be fully deployed and operational by mid-March. That's according to a senior U.S. official cited by Reuters. In the last 24 hours, Israel's Homefront Command has been instructed to prepare for war. High-level defensive alert has been declared. Israel's raised its alert readiness in the last 24 hours. And the U.S. has now 50, Axios is reporting more than 50 U.S. fighter jets have been moved into the Mideast, I think, in the last 48 hours. So anyways, all that to say is the news last night to this morning was vastly different. And then by the time you guys watch or listen to the show, it'll be different again. CBS is saying the U.S. could strike Iran by this weekend, or it could be mid-March. So we're going to talk about something different, and that is
another kind of war.
Yeah, a much more important war, I think we could say. You guys have seen the headlines. Tucker Carlson came to Israel, or did he come to Israel? Because he landed at the airport, took a photo, and left again. Just stayed just long enough to claim that he was thrown into an interrogation room and had his passport taken away, which turns out to be another one of his epic lies that he is so fond of telling now. And then while he was here, as he was leaving on his private airplane, he posted a 2-hour interview, which Josh so sacrificially watched this morning so that we can share the highlights with you guys. But that follows in the wake of Marjorie Taylor Greene just spouting incredible lies straight from the heart of Bethlehem this week, because apparently she went there. But it feels like the lies are so grotesque and the propaganda so massive that at some point we can't ignore it. And for 2 Jewish rabbis who live in Judea and 2 Christian Zionists who are based in Samaria, and right now we have 50 Christians volunteering in Israel's heartland. People have been reaching out to us you guys have to respond. You have to respond because we're Christian Zionists and we're in Israel and we're on the front lines and we know what's actually happening. And I think, we have been responding and we've been doing our best. Josh was actually in Taipei yesterday, which is the only all Christian village in Israel and
in
Judea
Israel
and
even across the Middle East. There's not so many of those, so it's a pretty big deal.
Josh and Justin were kind of undercovering Taipei yesterday. That'll be a separate show coming out, but this bears addressing. It's important, and I just want to clarify. I think we're past the point of dancing around the propaganda and spinning narratives. I feel like it's time to just say the truth for what it is. Tucker Carlson's a liar and he's a coward. And I don't know how he thought that was going to go well for him to pretend to agree to Mike Huckabee's calling him out in public of talking to him, say, yeah, okay, we'll come to Israel for an interview, landing his private plane at the VIP terminal in Ben Gurion, refusing to leave the airport complex. Mike Huckabee was gracious enough to come to the airport, sit down for an interview. We haven't even seen that yet, and literally took off again.
Well, when you say, I don't know how he thought that would play out well for him, you did send to our little WhatsApp group a link with Tucker Carlson's face, and it said 45% of young Republicans see Jews as a threat. it is working out well for him.
Yeah.
He's a huge, massive part of this very significant ideological, religious, and spiritual shift of the entire right-wing conservative part of America, shifting the entire trajectory of U.S. history. Okay, so he's having a real impact. So we could try to minimize that, but he is doing well for himself here.
What I realized, and these last 2 days for me have been really kind of awakening, where I've understand Christianity in a different way than I have to say than I ever have before. Where I thought, just in general, growing up as a 6th-generation farmer in Tennessee, that I thought most Christians just were kind of they loved the Jewish people, they loved the biblical story. There was just understood that the Jewish people were God's chosen people, Genesis 12, simple faith, and just believing that Israel is Israel, the Jewish people are the people of Israel. What I've seen over the last 2 days is there's a vast amount of Christianity that are no friend of the Jews, that are actually enemies of the Jews in a much bigger way than I ever thought, meaning they're actually more aligned with radical Islam against the Jews in their Christianity. I'm appalled by that. I mean, literally, I'm appalled by that. I didn't think that that's how vicious the Christian community was against Israel and the Jewish people, like relating them to Muslim, the jihad against Israel. But yet, yesterday specifically, and are you a little bit of pushback by that? I'm not really.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
To me, the window of Christian love for Israel and the Jewish people is really a small window. That's just a few decades, maybe since 1967, since the Jews really came back to Jerusalem and the prophecy started unfolding, maybe 1948. But from, the destruction of the temple until about 1948, the vast majority of Christians were always our enemy. Yeah. That's just the way it's been.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, it's okay.
Okay, I would even take it a little bit earlier than that, to the early return of the early 1900s, late 1800s, the Belu pioneers that were coming back and draining the swamps. But that's pretty much it. Meaning, I agree with the essence of your argument, and also the argument of someone like Nick Fuentes. So it says this whole idea of Judeo-Christian, blah blah, Judeo-Christian. This is a relatively new phenomenon. Most of history has been Cossacks, pogroms, Holocausts, and Inquisitions. Okay, and
which
so
is in alignment with radical Islam. That's what they have the view. The problem is that I don't see the Christians that I'm encountering here, the Tucker Carlson Christians and the Christians of Taipei. I'll just say exactly where I was a Father Jack yesterday, and trying to understand. I went with it to understand. Okay, what is happening with the Christians in Israel? Now they're outside of the Israel's jurisdiction; they're under the Palestinian Authority. But nevertheless, they're still using that as a tool against Israel. They're saying Israel's the problem, and they have no problem with their Islamic neighbors, and they believe that their Islamic neighbors are actually the solution and not the problem, and Israel's the problem, not the solution. So I guess just to put it in context, I went yesterday to the village of Taipei. It's only 100%, Christian village, and I interviewed the priest there for about an hour and a half, just talking to him, and then I walked all around the streets, and we talked to people, and all of this is going to come out in an adventure
got the
show.
Police, the PA police called on you.
PA police, the Christian PA police officer called on us, and
does that make you a little bit nervous?
Wait, did he say
no?
he's
it's
Christian?
a joke. Yeah, he's a Christian.
Oh, he's like a Taipei police officer.
Yeah, and then I should have asked him. I should have asked him why he didn't arrest the Arab Muslims that were throwing rocks at Jesus' statue down in the
Can I
city hall there.
Just caveat
with machine guns, and they're trying to.
Which you may not know is that I looked this up. Taipei is majority area C, and then a small area B, which means that the PA police have no authority in Taipei.
Right.
In other words, he was not really allowed to actually come up to you and tell you can't film or whatever he said.
Well, here's my biggest thing that I want to address with everybody is that there is a Christianity that fights Jews, is against the biblical narrative of the Jewish people returning. I literally asked the priest this straightforwardly. I said, do you not see Genesis 12 and the promise to this people of Israel and the state of Israel and the fulfillment of biblical prophecy in Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Joel? What do you do with these things? And he said straight out, the Jews aren't the real Jews. We're the people of the promise coming back to the land, as the Christians have taken that promise. And then I understood something crazy to me. Those people are enemies of the state of Israel. They call themselves Christians, but yet they're enemies of the state of Israel. They hate Bibi Netanyahu. They said, we don't hate anybody. And then they go on to talk about how they literally hate the state of Israel.
Josh, it's worse than that. It's not that they're just enemies of the state of Israel. They're really enemies of the Jewish people.
Right.
They don't recognize us as Jews. And meaning the alignment between Islam and this form of kind of the Catholic Church hatred of Israel is replacement theology. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
They both believe that they've replaced Israel. There is no more Israel. God's promises to Israel have somehow transferred to someone else. And so the Bible can't be referring to us. And so that's why they hate Israel so much, because we are a living manifestation of the truth. We are just reality.
Right.
And the Bible, when they come together, it's manifesting before our eyes, and they can't handle that. So they just seethe with hatred, saying, what? All of the promises of the Bible are actually coming to pass for the Jews, but we replace the Jews. And the more we're hated, the more we're persecuted, the more it proves that Jew hatred is true. Meaning the more, it's like if we've been replaced, then the more we are degraded, demoralized, persecuted, then it proves their fake theology to be true.
Right, but okay, but it also, I have to say that you and Hayovel were a tremendous inspiration for me, not only in general in life, but also this past Shabbat.
Mm-hmm.
You brought Joel Salatin to my home.
Yeah.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
Salatin.
And he was sitting at my Shabbat table. And I'm not going to get into my whole man crush on Joel and just what a righteous, humble man he is. But he was literally brought to tears with that he felt such a merit that he can bring his unique skill set, just like Jethro did, to bless Israel and the Jewish people. He can command a big, honorarium. He can make a lot of money just from the love and the kindness of his love for God and for what he says God's people. And then I contrast that with the vicious hatred, and it just seems like the love is getting stronger and more powerful, and the hatred, this is just a time of refinement, where the confusion, it's like that moment when Elijah said, how long are you going to stand on both sides? You can't be on both sides. Right after he said to the people, to the priests of Baal, why don't you go ask your God Chemosh? Meaning he said your God Chemosh. It doesn't mean he believed in Chemosh.
Right.
Okay, reference to the last show for those people who wanted to know. I needed to clarify that.
You stirred up some things online.
Yes, I know. That was fun. But anyways, so it's just interesting to see that there are the righteous remnant is being clarified. These are times of refinement and clarification, and every person has the ability to decide where they're going to fall out and what role they're going to play in this unfolding redemption.
I think that's the real point. The righteous remnant are being refined out. And the truth is, when you think about it, there's one alliance that's been formed between Israel and another large group. And it has been this Christian Zionist world. And it's now it's under attack now. There's no question about it. They're like, oh, these are the one supporters of Israel. Let's just chip away at that. Let's chip away. And they're targeting these Christian Zionists. And that's truly a part of God's plan, because it's not meant to be a giant movement of people that are just kind of with slogans supporting Israel because they're cute slogans, or, if you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. Well, that'll now be questioned. Well, what does that really mean? And it will sort of throw people off, and the righteous remnant will be sort of pulled out, refined like silver and gold. And whatever needs to fall to the sideway will fall to the side.
One of the biggest things that just baffles me, there's some things that make sense, and there's, they get these arguments and they twist words and they make things. But when I looked at that priest yesterday and I said, can you help me with something? I said, I don't understand something here. I said, obviously around the world, look at what's going on to the Christians in Syria under the Islamic regime there. And where there was 2 million Christians in 2011, and now today there's less than 350,000 that just been massacred or fled. And under Islam, and everybody
across the Middle East.
Well, yeah, across the Middle East.
Right.
Not Syria is probably the most extreme circumstance of the Islamic rule over Christians that there is in the Middle East. But every single Middle Eastern country is seeing a decline in Christian population. Every single one, except Israel. And I got to clarify here, because all of our listeners are really they're deep thinkers here. When Tucker Carlson said that the Christians are declining in Israel, that's not true at face value. You know what he did? It's very genius of him. And he even said it when he said that remark. He said, according to the national average. Okay.
Meaning the percentage.
Do you know
of
the percentage
population.
of the population is lesser? So in 1949,
I have the numbers if
percentage
you
of
wanna.
Christians were here were only
You want the
2.9%.
numbers?
Yeah, I think it was 2.9%.
Okay, so in 1949 there was 34,000 Christians in Israel. Today there's 185,000.
So it's not growth.
Somebody do the math on what percentage increase that is. But in 1949, Christians made up 10% of the population, and today they're 2%.
That's not the figures that I had on the stats from the.
This is according to the
Jewish Library.
Central Bureau of Statistics from December 2025. No, but no, your point is correct.
According to the national average,
Your point is
they're
correct.
lesser. But I thought it was like 2.9% of the population, and today it's 1.7 or something percent of the population. Those are the figures
No,
I
so
saw.
in 1949, like there was nobody in Israel. Like there was like what
600,000
a couple
Jews.
100,000 people.
600,000.
And so
Jews.
whatever, number 34,000 Christians made up a good percentage of the people in Israel.
Right.
Today there's 185, but there's 10 million people.
Well, because
in
and
Israel.
that's my point is that he's took these national average. What he didn't say is that Jews fled from all the Arab countries in this same time period. Christians were not fleeing from these Arab countries at that time period. Jews were, and Jews fled from the whole planet. World War II was going on. All of these things, they fled back to Israel, and so you have 6 million Jews coming back to the land of Israel. Nearly 7 million now coming back to the land of Israel. Obviously, this is not the safe haven for Christians in the world. And so he's balancing that up against. And so obviously the figures are off. He's not being.
But on a deeper level, there's a deeper truth to what he's saying.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I mean. The Oslo Accords, Bethlehem was given over to the Palestinian Authority. Before that, when Israel was in charge of Bethlehem, Bethlehem was 80% Christian, 20% Muslim. After the Oslo Accords, within months or just very, very
No,
few
I have the
years,
exact figures.
it was 20%.
It went from 85% in 1994 to the Oslo Accords being established and put in 1995, down to 35% in 1 year. Today, it's
Right.
only 10%.
So just exactly. I thought it was 80-20 to the other 80-20.
In 1 year, the
Right.
Oslo Accords, and which means the Palestinian Authority, the Arab rule, meaning Arabs ruling over Christians, the Christians fled or were killed.
Yeah, they fled to countries all around.
85% to 30.
Years ago, I did a little mini project calling some of these Christians in different countries and speaking with them about what happened. And they fled because of Islamic terror that was just destroying all of Bethlehem and murdering people.
Do you know more than that? In Gaza, there was 5,000 Christians that lived in Gaza before Israel pulled out. That was just the people that were there under the Israeli rule. And of course, Israel wasn't even really ruling. It was still under Arab, but just having Israeli presence in Gaza before 2005. You know what? Today, there's only 1,000 left. Israel pulls out. It's automatic what happens. In Taipei, where I was yesterday, the same exact story. There are 300, it's just a small village, 300 empty homes. There's 15,000 residents of Taipei. Only 50, people that are from there. Only 1,200 live there today. They've fled. There's videos. I told the priest, and this is what baffles my mind. I told the priest, I said, so you're telling me that Israel's the problem? Israel's like no other place. Well, he calls it Palestine. He also referred to 1948 as the Nakba, and
which means the
disaster,
catastrophe.
Yeah. And I told him, I said, but I don't understand how you feel secure under the Palestinian Authority. I said, I just saw a video. It came out a few months ago of terrorist Muslims running down your streets here with guns, shooting in the air, and throwing rocks at the statue of Jesus down here that you have in your village. And he says, no, my friend. It's all in. He didn't deny that it didn't happen. He said, it's just a little internal thing between us.
Right.
And I said, what about the time when one of your boys here, Christian boys, married a Muslim girl, and the Muslims came and burned down his house? I don't even know. I don't know if he survived it or not. But I said, what happened then? I said, you don't feel like that wasn't threatening to the community? That wouldn't be the reason why everybody left? No. That's just all an internal. It's all internal. He literally said it. His hatred was for Israel was more than the obvious answer to the question. Radical Islam is no place for anyone but Islamists.
Okay, but let me get back to what I was saying about the truth, the deeper truth. I think that's part of what we're here to do on the show, not just to report the news, but to do it from a prism of truth and honesty and biblical sanctity.
Yeah.
Okay, and so from a Jewish perspective, the temple was destroyed not because of the Babylonians, not because of the Romans. When we sit down on the 9th of Av and we mourn and we weep, we're constantly saying the real reason, because of our sins. Our sins. Part of redemption that is unfolding right now is the Jews finally taking responsibility. And so we have to own what we have to own. So we could be like, oh no, it's because of the Arabs taking over Bethlehem. But why did they take over Bethlehem? Because we made a covenant with the people in the land. And the Bible tells us God will return you to the land. He will give you the land in a miraculous fashion. And do not make a covenant with them. They will be thorns in your eyes. Do not do so. We see all the way back to the book of Joshua, when the Jews, right after the victory against the village of Ai, right? Then all of a sudden they got a little bit cocky, a little bit excited, a little bit, wow, we're being recognized, and they struck a covenant with the Gibeonites, with who were Canaanites in the land, and they didn't investigate fully, and that is part of the Jewish Achilles heel. We want peace in the world. We want global unity. But God says we're supposed to rectify the world with his kingdom, with his will, and not to strike covenants. So in that way, Tucker's right. It is our fault. Yes, the Muslims are persecuting and viciously terrorizing Christians throughout the entire Middle East and the world. Totally. But we're not doing what we need to do. That's all I want to say.
No, the bottom line is, it's really, if it is our God-given land, then we need to take responsibility for everything within the land. What Israel was defending the Druze in Syria, I took great pride in that. I was like, wow, that's out of our political borders, but we see something that's so unjust that's happening, and now the Druze are begging for Israel to annex parts of Syria into Israel and let them be a part of like what we're building here. And the same thing is happening in Tibet. The reason why they're sort of turning on Israel is because they don't feel like they can rely on Israel, and they're now left alone dealing with the Palestinian Authority, though they don't want to badmouth the Muslims because the Muslims will come and murder them. So they're always like walking this like
that's
very
what I
narrow
always
road.
thought. I always thought that. Yesterday, I think it's more than that.
It's deeper than that.
Well, that's
they're in alignment with the Muslims. I always thought, and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to go to somebody on the street and be like, we were trying to get someone, say, hey, listen, we'll blur your face, we'll blur your voice, we'll do everything we can. I've not found I've made calls to people. No one is willing.
This is really important for our audience to know, too.
To talk.
Like,
They're not.
If you're Arab in Judea and Samaria, like, we cannot, people will not be on camera with us. And the only time we do get people on camera is if they don't know who we are, like the priest you interviewed yesterday. Because you should tell people. You also went back to the other priest that we did interview last year. It appeared in an Israel Guy show, and he slammed the door in your face.
Right, and called the police on me. So I would like to think, because the common sense thing would be, to me, it's the same thing that's happening with the woke right. Woke right. Do you not get it? I mean, woke left. Maybe they're all joined together now.
By the way,
they are woke.
Tucker Carlson and Cenk Uygur.
Yeah,
they had a whole hour-long
doing together. It's the same with these Christians, and it doesn't make any sense in the world, because after the Muslims say when, if in their mind they're going to defeat the Western world, well, what are these lefties and woke people doing? They're just going to kill them afterwards. The same exact logic is going on in the heads of these Christians throughout Israel, that are actually the majority of the Christians in Israel, unfortunately, are these kind of Tibet version Christians. The vast majority of the Christians in Israel are the Arab Christians in this mindset, and they're actually more aligned with Islam than they are the state of Israel. And it's deeper, and I always thought before that it was a survival mechanism, but I believe it's more than that now. There may be a handful of them that are trying to survive, but more than that, I got the feeling yesterday that I was wrong. And because the obvious approach would be what you just said, Jeremy. Of course, they're trying to survive, and they got these hostile neighbors. No, they hate Israel more than that. I actually believe that's what changed yesterday for me to understand. They actually hate the state of Israel more than even their own life, meaning they're willing to link up with the radical Islamist to fight Israel and to be one of the biggest voices of delegitimization to the state of Israel than they are to their own. It's to their detriment I told the priest, do you not understand? Israel could take sovereignty over this area, right? And you would be your beer festival that you hold here in Taipei could be Israelis would love to come here. They'd love to be a part of this your festive ancient traditions. And this could be a Christian thing that could be protected. You wouldn't have people throwing stones and tearing down your or attacking your Jesus statues and stuff. I said the Christian population in Israel has doubled since 1970. Christians are doing just fine in Israel proper. They're protected. They have freedoms. The worst thing Tucker Carlson can say about them is that they got spit at sometimes. Nobody's killing them, and they're not burning their houses down for marrying someone outside of that. And they're not. That's what these guys are saying. And they're not fleeing the country because of the radical Islamist persecutions against them, but they hate Israel more. They hate what's happening. The Jews, their fight is aligned with radical Islam, and that's a kind of a big wake up to me, because I think most of the Christian world, even the Tucker Carlson world, is aligned with that as well. Their hatred of Zionism, the Jewish people, the promise, the covenant, Genesis 12. Everything has to be spiritualized. It's no more, the Jews is not the real Jews. The promises aren't the real promises. It's all in the sky. It's all fake. And that's how they've now created another religion that removes Jews out of the way. And now they're it.
Josh, can we talk about Bethlehem for a second before you get farther in the Tucker Carlson interview?
Yeah.
I think it bears mentioning because this is kind of like the two big high-profile people that were in Israel. Well, one was in Israel, one was in the airport. But Marjorie Taylor Greene went to Bethlehem this week, made some waves. And I just want to read you what she wrote about her visit, because she met with the mayor of Bethlehem. And she said, he told me, quote, he told me about Christian persecution happening in Bethlehem and also in Gaza and the West Bank. Christians have been killed in the bombings in Gaza, and churches have been attacked. Others have told me this as well. And I've seen videos online. I feel like that's like the greatest line ever to prove to show how much evidence you have or something. Yeah. And she says, the mayor says they only want to live in peace alongside their Jewish and Muslim neighbors in their homes that they legally own, yet the settlers continue to take their homes. There are approximately 139 IDF checkpoints now in Bethlehem, which one was 41 square miles, once was 41.
That part didn't make sense
misspelling.
to me.
I think she misspelled something. But now it's been reduced to 7 square miles. And then she goes on. She says, what is the Holy Land without Christians? So Bethlehem is your backyard, basically. And if you've never been to Israel, you don't live here, and all you watch is Tucker Carlson and people like this, Candace Owens, Marjorie Taylor Greene, like, what did she leave out? I would say the biggest thing she left out is that if you want to go to Bethlehem as a Jew or an Israeli, you can't. You're not allowed. Number one, you're not allowed. And two, you would be stoned to death if you did go to Bethlehem.
Oh, just shot. They got plenty of weapons.
Shot, yeah. I don't know. That's a kind of important fact.
Oh, there's about 22 terrorist organizations working inside of Bethlehem now. Now that Israel's pulled out, that's what
right.
they have for that.
Because when Oslo was implemented, Israel allowed themselves to be violated and invaded by Western projection that was really intended in a very cynical way to undermine the Jewish claim and connection to Judea. And they put these signs, these massive red signs that you see until this very day when you drive by every Arab village in the area, saying this is Area A. Jews, according to the law, are not allowed in here. They're not allowed in. If you're a Jew and you come in here, you could die. Right?
It's illegal.
Right. It's illegal. So for the state of Israel to bar Jews from entering Judea is such a spiritual decay and rot and such a twisted thing that, of course, it's going to result in those areas being, it's like saying, leave Sodom, leave that to itself. Also, some of these Arabs were on the way to wanting to have a connection with Israel. Some of them are perhaps like Ishmaelites, actual Yishmael, not these Philistine marauders that wanted a connection. But the minute you put a big sign up in front of their village saying a Jew comes in here, they're going to die, well, it's the ultimate disempowerment.
I have a question for you guys. How does it feel to be one of those settlement,
That's exactly radical
settlements that is oppressing the people of the good
because
Christian
that's
people?
exactly that's
you guys
who
are
she's
on
talking
there.
about when she says settlers are stealing the homes and territory of Bethlehem. They're talking about your lonely hilltop And in Judea, it was not lonely anymore,
you
but
know.
like the hilltop that was barren for 2,000 years, where King David wrote the Psalms, you guys came in, built beautiful homes and a beautiful retreat center. That's exactly who she's talking about.
I actually
taking
wish
over Bethlehem.
There's something so misleadingly superficial and simplistic about so many of these verbal assaults on Israel that when you look, let's say, before October 7th, we did have Arab labor helping us build the farm and what we were building there. And if you came in and you see me talking to an Arab very respectfully, and there's a very good relationship, but still I'm saying, build this here in this way. Well, he's the rich overlord. But if you just zoom out a little bit and you see me driving away in a beat up 2003 Toyota that it should have been impounded into a ball of steel a long time ago, and him driving away in a Land Cruiser to a mansion, and we're living in caravans surrounded by barbed wire to protect ourselves, or they're living in mansions with no fences and no security, sleeping the sleep of the just. Like, what is this about? What is really happening here? It is the absolute inversion. It's not just a lie, it's the inversion of the truth.
You know, that was one of the things Tucker, to get to the interview, that he said is that he said that the settlements were ugly, and that you know, compared to the Arab villages, they were so beautiful. Now maybe if he just took one picture of a home, but
can we just make sure everybody knows that that's a complete bold-faced lie?
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys can Google it. I mean, there's something about the culture here. If you go in an Arab village, it's full of trash.
Yes, I just want to say that I try to walk around my whole life and never have hatred in my heart for anyone or anything ever. And even if I go out to war, I want it to be from a place of love, not only for the people of my nation and my people I'm protecting, but also love for these jihadist evil terrorists who want to murder Jewish babies, that there's really nothing better for them than to never be able to do that ever. And so I'm going to try to facilitate that. And also they want to be shaheeds and martyrs. Also try to facilitate that. But the point is, I have this homicidal urge when they're in front of me in the vehicles and they just roll down their window and throw out not just a can, a bag of garbage. Do you understand? Like, our village has constant things where the kids go out. Wherever I go with my kids, we have like a bag in our pockets so we can pick up garbage and say, L'Shem mitzvat ahavat Yisrael. We say different things about our love for Israel, and we're picking up garbage. And the whole thing is a big garbage can to them. Okay, and so like to say that it's just such a twisted. He's constantly saying, you got to come to Qatar, you got to come to Saudi Arabia and see it yourselves. You got to come to Judea and see for yourselves what's really happening here, and that's what you guys do really well.
Yeah.
Really well.
Right.
You got to come on their tour.
We'll get back to the podcast in just a second, but first, if what we've been talking about and the idea of cutting through the fog and the fake news and the propaganda and seeing things for yourself and meeting the Jewish people and seeing the biblical sites resonates with you, then we have just opened a brand new trip in 2026. We're filling up our trips so fast. And the Heartland Experience, which is one of our most popular trips, has been filling up, that we opened a new one. It's October 12th through 21st. That's 10 days on the ground in Israel. And we call it the Heartland Experience because it's focused exclusively on Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. And you get to volunteer and serve the people and the land while you're here. And you get to meet the pioneers, go off the beaten path, see sites up close, especially the biblical heartland sites. It will vastly change your perspective. It'll strengthen your faith. You'll see your faith and your Bible come to life. The Heartland Experience, there's a reason it's one of our most popular trips to Israel. It's filling up fast, but you can get in right now, October 12th through 21st, 10 days in Israel. Go to our website at serveisrael.com or click the link in the description below. Promise you, you will not be disappointed. We'd love to have you join us here at the Israel Guys in Israel this fall, 2026, October 12th through 21st. Now, back to the podcast.
I don't want to miss the point here of what's her name, the lady that was just here?
MTG.
Who's it? Oh, yeah, MTG. Is that what they all kind of made?
I don't know. It's
Marjorie
too long
Taylor
of a
Greene.
name. Also, I think she's kind of a nut. So,
well, no, but I'm saying
her name too
she
much.
said something, and Tucker's saying these things, and you know who the problem is again? It's not the radical Islamists that have driven the Christian population out. That's just fact. None of them will ever say that. Those radical Islamists have taken over Bethlehem and driving the Christians out. The same radical Islamists that are slaying the Christians of Syria. Same exact issue. You know what the problem is? You see in the distance out there, way over there, there's a hilltop.
Jeremy and Ari's, the Aro goat farm.
Ari and Jeremy's farm is over there. You know those Jews? Ari said he was just out, the electricity went out. You know what he was really doing? He was
adding an outhouse to his trailer.
Yeah.
That's the reason that there's conflict in the Middle East, is because that trailer added another room onto the back.
No, they literally say that they're attacking the Bethlehem is dwindling, and this population is actually on the verge of extinction of Christians because of the settlers. Meaning the settlers are the problem, not the solution. Well, the settlers are the solution to protecting and guarding the land of Israel, protecting the Christian populations, because when they actually are in charge, there's law and order, and when they're not, radical Islam shows you what they can do. So
wait, I just want to
that.
interject on one point. I'm sorry, forgive me. Not only protecting Israel, but protecting Tucker Carlson. That's what's so rich about this. He is literally, I don't remember if you saw that commercial about the boulder coming down and stopped, and they're swinging at the monster that's holding the boulder up that's protecting them. Like, the global jihad is going for Tucker Carlson. And if he thinks that just because he's waving the banner in defense of them, that they're going to, they're not going to cut his head off and put it on a stake, they're wrong. They're going for the entire world. And the tip of the spear in the battle against the global jihad is Judea and Samaria and the settlements and the farms on the tips of the settlements. And so we're here not just protecting all of Israel and every Jew in the world, but every Bible believer anywhere in the world, whether they know it or not.
That's right.
I wanted to go to the clip here with these guys, and just because I want to hear the rabbis' responses to some of this this real Jew it is real Jew hatred. Yet the whole interview, as I just listened to these guys, was saying, we don't hate Jews, we love Jews. We're not anti-Semites. Well, everybody tells us I'm anti-Semite. I'm not an anti-Semite. But the whole thing was, that they were bashing Ambassador Huckabee the whole time, and I think we have a lot in common with Ambassador Huckabee on this show. Someone that believes in the Bible as though it didn't change and that it isn't rewritten. And maybe there's a lot of reason why the Christian community is embracing more with Islam than the Jews, is because there is a replacement in both of these. It's 2.0 and 3.0 gathered together against one, the founders, the Jews. So maybe that's why they're kind of there's a unity there in their replacement theologies of both the church and Islam.
The Jews are a threat to both of them.
Yeah,
they have to somehow undermine the Jewish return to the land of Israel, or both of those theologies fall apart. And the most prophesied event in the Bible is the ingathering of the Jewish people back to the land of Israel. Every single prophet in the Bible speaks of it, and here we are living it. And so what do these replacement theologians do? They just can't handle it, so they'll attack us till their last breath.
Right. And so I want to play this clip here where they're discussing Abraham and how the covenant is conditional on Abraham, but under Jesus it's secure, and now the promises are, it's basically replacement theology 101 that seems to represent so much of Christianity, and how now it's causing them to be like, oh, Israel, everything we're seeing in Israel is what is that? It's just a secular state, whatever. Let's play this clip.
And this is important. What does it mean? Do we inherit a holy land between the river and the Mediterranean? Or does it mean something else? The meaning of that promise have also been transformed. It's not just the scope of the promise, it's the meaning of the promise.
Right.
From temporary to eternal, from physical to spiritual.
That's right.
From conditional, because it was conditional, by the way. He didn't just give them the land and say, this is your land. It's God's land, by the way. He is the landlord. And the people that were given the land, they were tenants. And they have to obey the commandments of the Lord. They have to love their neighbors. They have to take care of the foreigners among them. And when they don't obey the covenant that was given to them, God always kicked them out.
Oh yeah, they get taken to Babylon.
Yes, twice. And the Old Testament gives graphic language when it describes the not for Israel not obeying the laws of the Lord. It says the land will vomit you out. Excuse my language. So it was conditional when it was given to Abraham, but in Jesus, it's secure. It's eternal.
I can't watch that.
I get it. It aggravates me to no end, but I want to hear from rabbis. Obviously, this is a pretty flawed theology.
Well, I would say that first, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they never spoke about a new Jerusalem. That's just not a part of their covenant. The one covenant that they did have is the land. That is the one covenant and promise given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the promised land. And the second part is, he said, the covenant with them is what did he say? Is coincidental? Conditional.
Yeah.
It's like, well, because it says that they'll vomit them out of the land. There's a difference between consequences and conditional. Like, there are consequences if the Jews don't keep to the covenant. We will be vomited out of the land. And then every prophet in the Bible says, including Moses, one day they will be brought back, because an everlasting covenant is an everlasting covenant. That is said over and over again. And so an eternal word, an eternal promise from an eternal God with an eternal people. Here the Jewish people are living in the land of Israel, living out the promises of God. And it's just undeniable unless you make up lies like, oh, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were looking for a new Jerusalem that's not a piece of land. It's just a lie.
If I could just stand on Jeremy's shoulders here for a second, because I think one of the differences, you were just talking about how Tucker Carlson advertises and his ideological alliances, and he's very much Catholic when it comes to that approach. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understood, the Catholic priests and the Protestants, a big part of their war was that Catholicism wanted to keep the actual Bible away from the average people and in the hands of the priests who understood it, and the little peons just had to take their word for it.
Yeah.
The same thing is happening here, right? What Jeremy just said is true, but they don't want the people to actually dive into the Bible, swim those waters on their own, and see the lies that they're talking about, right? First of all, when it says, for God, he's literally calling God a liar. Right? God says in Genesis chapter 17, I will give to you and your descendants the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession. Right? When it talks about the covenant of the parts, right, that Abraham made, usually in the ancient Far East, the Middle East, it would both sides would walk through that.
Yeah.
Right? Why? To say that if we violate this was a unilateral covenant. God made a covenant with Abraham. And yes, just like Jeremy said in Leviticus 26:44, even when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not reject them to completely destroy them, for I am the Lord their God. Right? It's a promise that God has made to the nation of Israel that he's with us. And the enemies of Israel think that God is a liar. And so they conflate and mistake our punishments from our Father that loves us with his total rejection of us, which is why it's a desecration of his name to begin with. I have more to say this, but what
I was reading it this morning, and I'm reading through all the prophets, which the prophets are great with this, but Ezekiel has a number of chapters where they spend he spends a lot of the chapter talking about if Israel disobeys, when they worship idols, when they sacrifice on the high places, they'll be kicked out of the land. But if you just read the end of the chapter or the next chapter, every single time, it's but I will bring them back. I will renew my covenant with them. I will keep my promises to the people of Israel. And maybe this is everyone's problem, is they just don't read the end of the chapter. But what I always tell people, just read the Bible in its entirety. It is filled from, beginning with Genesis all the way through with God's enduring promise and covenant with Israel.
Here's what I don't get. They say, and if we watched it a little bit later in the clip, you'd see this part where they say, why are we bringing back a pre-Christian territorial mindset? Meaning, physical versus spiritual. Listen, guys. Everything is spiritual today, but yet underneath, what are they actually saying? They're saying it's really a big skies, because they're saying they want to change facts on the ground. They want facts on the ground to change. They want to take over Bethlehem. They want to take over these different areas. They want to hold on. They want to create a two-state solution. They want facts on the ground, but they're doing it through a kind of an interesting way. They're saying, what are we going back to this thing? Because the Jews, they're all focused on the actions and actually doing what Abraham said and saying to you and your descendants, I give this land. And they're actually going to come back and physically take the land.
He preceded it by talking about how much the Palestinian church loves the patriarchs. And then he launched into how the covenant made with the patriarchs is no longer valid.
I think maybe the calling here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the difference between Tucker Carlson and you is that when I've seen your Bible...
There's a difference between Josh.
Tell me... I feel like
can we do that?
I'm going out of my comfort zone here.
My laugh wasn't exactly right.
I'm going out of my comfort zone here, so I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong. But you have a Bible that starts with Genesis and it goes all the way to the end of the New Testament, meaning you see it all as one. Whereas I imagine if I were to ask him for his Bible, it's only the New Testament. Right? That would be, I think,
no,
the
he
difference.
just reads it backwards.
He wouldn't admit that, but yes, I would.
Okay, but
correct.
because it's impossible to not see the core biblical claim to the land. You know, we're reading off a computer because to go through the Bible and to shift around, it's too much time. To your offspring, I have given this land from the river of Egypt to the great river to the Euphrates. Genesis, I will give this land to your descendants for the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession. You shall take possession of this land and dwell in it. For to you I have given the land to possess. You know, just over and over and over again, Hashem will return your captives, gather you from the nations, and bring you into the land. And he's like, oh, this antiquated, backwards. You're just calling the God of Israel, the God of all of mankind, backwards and antiquated and a liar. That's literally who those that are siding with Tucker Carlson are aligning themselves with to their own detriment and their own peril.
You got to play this clip because it's too we're just going to love to eat this up because it's talking about how is this genetic? Is this really, you think? Because once you separate, everything's so spiritual. No longer the physical doesn't matter anymore. The promise made to Abraham, what is that? It's a spiritual promise. Those that believe in God, and now who are the Jews? That's what they ask. Who are the Jews?
Yeah,
So play this clip, yeah.
Of course, as a theological matter, but I think if we're speaking in political terms, this is a government run by secular people by and large.
Yes.
And they're saying God gave us this land. Okay, what land? What are the boundaries? So we should at least define the terms. Second, who's we? What does it mean? Who are the people who inherited this? So the prime minister of Israel is not religious. He doesn't keep the Sabbath or keep kosher. I'm not attacking him. No. I'm just saying, then what are you talking about? Are you saying you have a genetic inheritance? What? Okay, let's see.
Can someone who converts to Judaism claims divine right from Brooklyn, New York?
I don't even want to have these conversations. They're the ones pushing them. I think I'm happy to let people practice their own religions. I don't want to get involved.
Yeah.
I don't want to know everything about Mormonism or Islam or whatever. It's fine. But as long as you're saying you have a right to my money and your parents' land on the basis of this promise in Genesis, I have a right to ask you what the heck you're talking about.
Did you know that Israel goes out of its way to prevent Messianic believers from making Aliyah?
No.
Jewish believers in Jesus. If they find out that you believed in Jesus, they don't give you the right to immigrate to Israel.
What?
So whose land?
Is that true?
Whose promise? Yeah, I have a lot of Jewish friends who are believers in Jesus, and they share with me.
And they can't move back to Israel and get all the rights of...
Not as...
So they're really... Okay, so now we're talking present day concrete political realities. There are two claims that they could potentially be making. One is faith-based. So I believe in this religion called Judaism, and we could debate what that religion is. Is it Talmudic or rabbinic, whatever? That's a whole separate conversation that I don't want to have, but they're pushing this. But it's either faith-based, I believe in this, or it's blood-based. It's genetic.
And they have also historical claims. Say, Jews been here. We have.
But who are the Jews then?
They
do you have more DNA? I don't know if you even know the answer, but if we were to say, okay, who lived in first century Palestine, current day Israel, are you more closely related to those people, or is Benjamin Netanyahu more closely related to those people?
They should do a DNA test and see. And I did my DNA test. Palestinian Christians are Levantine of origin.
So it's likely that you have more Jewish ancestors than Benjamin Netanyahu, whose family's from Europe.
Probably.
Okay. So then it can't be genetic because, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Jeremy, please.
No, but there was two. Which clips are we doing? There's one to talk about.
I just want to say, this is the problem. They give you so much. They barrage you with so much insanity and so much twisted, distorted logic.
So
where do you even start?
Okay, start with the first one, Jeremy.
Well,
we need to scissors, rock, and paper for who gets to do this.
You can go first.
You do.
No, I'm serious. You can really do it first.
It's genetic, and is BB. Those are the two questions. Is this a genetic thing, or is this are the Arabs more
basically what gives the Jews the right to the land? That was the first one.
The first one. What gives the Jews the right to the land? God. Okay.
And the second one was he's more Jewish than Bibi Netanyahu.
And then in his case, either way, he's the inheritor of the promise because he's actually more.
Okay.
Okay,
So
In some ways, it's
exciting.
exciting. They're really sparking some of the most foundational, fundamental.
The problem is that within 3 sentences, like that's a lie, that's like manipulated, that's twisted. It's like, wait, I want to like take all of those things apart. So like, can we just go back for once to what is 116? I just want to hear like what
The first part?
Yeah, the first that we just like then we can do the second part. I just want to make sure that I like want to, if it's like showing that clip and then the response, then I want to make sure that I'm responding to what he's saying.
Second, who's we? What does it mean? Who are the people who inherited this? So the prime minister of Israel is not religious. He doesn't keep the Sabbath or keep kosher. I'm not attacking him. I'm just saying, like, then what are you talking about? Are you saying you have a genetic inheritance? Like what? Okay, let's see the DNA.
The promise was given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their children forever. The Jewish people are quite literally an extended family. We are all interconnected, but what's so beautiful about the family is that anyone can join. It doesn't matter if you're a black Jew, a white Jew, a polka dot Jew, a yellow Jew. You can always attach yourself to Israel. You are not Jewish. You're living in the land. You've been here for years. You have a place in this land. And so it's not about a genetic thing. It's about an idea thing. Are you connecting to the idea of what Israel represents? Are you connecting to the God of Israel? If you connect to the God of Israel as our Father and you attach yourself to the nation of Israel, then of course you have a place within the land of Israel. And so there's always been righteous among the nations that have attached themselves to Israel. Moab was an enemy country, but Ruth, the Moabite, eventually attached herself to Israel and gave birth to King David and the Messianic dynasty. That didn't happen with ethnicity or DNA. She was a total non-Jew from the nations that attached herself to Israel, and specifically the attachment of the righteous among the nations is what gave birth to the Messianic dynasty. So it's not just the Jews with their genetics, it's much beyond that, but at the same time, it's confusing because the Jews are one large extended family from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And anyone that attaches themselves to Israel is like joining the family of Israel. It's like one tree, and you can be grafted onto a tree and you become a part of that tree. You become a part of that family. And so it is a family, but the family is open to all those that want to join.
Ari, I want you to answer this next question, and I want to play this clip because who are the Jews then? To play this clip, and I want Ari, if you can respond to this part of this whole.
Okay, but can I just say in one sentence, I just want to respond to that because there's just so much to say there. You know, look back at Abraham. It's the same thing with us. We came to the land, we bought it at top dollar.
That's right.
We conquered it in a war, in an actual war of this world with tanks and weapons, and we won against overwhelming odds, right? And still, we have to defend our right to be there because they're essentially speaking to the heart, to the soul of the situation, saying, yeah, but what's it really for? And that's the question we really need to ask ourselves. What's it really for? Is it just that we have a safe place, a miklat, to go when the world wants to kill us? Or are we supposed to be shining a light of godliness and truth and Torah to the entire nations of the world? That's like the essence of the question that is being, meaning God is using them right now as an instrument. But I don't want to hold you back.
But I want you to answer that question.
I think there's also an expectation. It's interesting the way it's like Bibi Netanyahu, he doesn't keep Shabbat. He doesn't keep kosher. And I feel like that's so interesting that intuitively they want the people of Israel and our leadership to live by the Torah. So do I. If we could only be integral, have integrity, live by the Torah that God gave us in this land, that's what the world is waiting for. And what we're doing is we're just confusing the world. We're confusing the world because we haven't won yet. We haven't just taken over land and just created the facts on the ground by declaring sovereignty. And we're also confusing the world saying, well, if you're God's chosen people and God gave you the Torah, why aren't you living by the Torah in the land like the Torah says? And so what can I say other than he's right? The prime minister of Israel should keep Shabbat. The prime minister of Israel should keep kosher. And we should live by that word.
Right. The book of Amos says, "V'shavti shvutami, uvanu arim neshamot v'natu kolmim v'shatu et einam." They will rebuild desolate. I will return the exiles of my people. They will plant vineyards and drink their wine. They will rebuild desolate cities. I shall plant them on their land, and they'll never be uprooted again. Hashem will return your captives, gather you from the nations, bring you to the land your forefathers possessed. The city shall be inhabited, the ruins rebuilt. Like, how much more do you need? You can't turn the page of the Bible without literally the prophecy prophecies that are being fulfilled right now through us.
Well, I want to say something. When you spiritualize the Bible, which is what they're doing, they're saying, oh, that's a spiritual ingathering. It's talking about a spiritual rebuilding of cities and a spiritual planting of vineyards. Well, then who's to define what that spiritual meaning is? Oh, it's the church fathers. They can then decide what the spiritual meaning is. It's like a controlling of that religion instead of letting God take control, instead of letting reality define what the truth is. And the reason why it's all happening now is because the world is going to be filled with lies. The prophets literally say lies will look like truths and truths will look like lies, and no one will know what to make of all the lies. And so there is just going to be a truth. The Jewish people returning to the land, building a kingdom in this country, building up Jerusalem as the capital. It's just what's going to be reality, and AI won't be able to fake it, and the fake news won't be able to manipulate it. It will just be God's sovereignty as the people of Israel declare sovereignty in the world. That's what it's there for. It's to bring truth and clarity to a world filled with lies.
The biggest reason I want to play this clip is just because it's absolutely so idiotic and stupid and just so...
A perfect way to finish the show.
We are running out of time.
We are running out of time, but there is one more thing we have to get in on this. There's actually two more things we have to get in really quickly, so we'll speed through this.
Is there a rule it has to be an hour, or could it be an hour 10 if we need to?
Let's just get it
there's
quick.
just 50 people waiting outside to eat lunch, but that's okay.
So they're really, okay, so now we're talking like present day concrete political realities. There are two claims that they could potentially be making. One is faith-based. So I believe in this religion called Judaism, and we could debate what that religion is. Is it Talmudic or rabbinic, whatever? That's a whole separate conversation that I don't want to have, but like they're pushing this. But it's either faith-based, I believe in this, or it's blood-based. It's genetic.
And they have also historical claims. Say, Jews been here. We have.
But who are the Jews then?
They
do you have more DNA? I don't know if you even know the answer, but if we were to say, okay, who lived in first century Palestine, current day Israel, are you more closely related to those people, or is Benjamin Netanyahu more closely related to those people?
They should do a DNA test and see. And I did my DNA test. Palestinian Christians are Levantine of origin.
So it's likely that you have more Jewish ancestors than Benjamin Netanyahu, whose family's from Europe.
Probably.
Okay.
Wow. That is the craziest. And that's what I'm talking about. Absolute idiocy.
Can I just point out, too, like the whole context is we don't want to have this conversation. We don't want to get in anybody's business or tell people what they can believe or what religion they can be a part of. But isn't, it's important. We have to. You're going to force me. We have to ask the question, who are the Jews and what gives them the right to modern day Israel?
Because we have to finish up, there's two things that they said in this show that we have to cover, and so we have to jump here really quickly. But I want to
let Jeremy and Ari
No,
respond to that one.
This is your job. This is your department.
No, but I just
wanna
think
hear from
everybody
you.
agrees that that's just stupid. I just wanted everybody to hear that because it's just really stupid to say that maybe this Arab from the Levant has more Jewish ancestry than Bibi Netanyahu. I mean, that's just a little bit far for me. I don't think we need to talk about it much more. But there's something really, really cool that they discussed here that I think is awesome. It's talking about Jewish sovereignty in Jerusalem. I want to play this clip.
Total disregard of the historic church that has been sitting there for the past 2,000 years, okay? I pray for the peace of Jerusalem, but praying for the peace of Jerusalem does not mean accepting the destruction of Gaza.
How do you respond to something like that?
No. You start.
You want me to start?
Yes.
Well, I just think it's absolutely it's a different religion. To say that Jews shouldn't, this Jewish, we pray for the peace of Jerusalem, but it shouldn't be a Jewish sovereignty is not what King David meant when he stated the words in the Psalms that you should pray for the peace. Was the King David Jerusalem and the vision, the Messianic kingdom, not Jewish? And was this story somehow, that is a different religion? And to me, it's more Islamic than anything else. I'm just pretty blatant about that.
Well, right there, it really goes to the heart of the issue.
Yeah.
They don't want a Jewish Jerusalem. They don't want a Jewish people. That's why they keep on questioning, who are the Jews? They want us to just disappear because then they can control the narrative. They can control the Bible. It's all spiritual anyway. I'll tell you what spirituality means. It's actually an analogy for AI, and we need to worship AI now because the spiritual blessings of the rebuilding of who knows, they could just make up whatever they want. And so Israel is going to be a light because it will bring the bottom line truth into reality. And they can try to replace us But here we are. Jerusalem has never been so big. There have never been more Jews living in Jerusalem than ever before. So what will happen is that reality will reveal itself, and the truth is reality, and God is reality, and God is good, and the truth is good. And eventually all of these lies will be exposed for what they are.
And it's already starting to reveal itself now, because anyone with a modicum of intellectual honesty and curiosity can go and just look up the fact that right now, Muslim Arabs, Christians, Catholics, the whole spectrum, Jews, the whole world has more access to pray in Jerusalem under a Jewish Jerusalem than ever before. A true international Jerusalem is under the nation of Israel, the state of Israel. Now, unfortunately, because we're in the days leading up to redemption and we're not there now, the temple that we are seeking to build, that we've been praying to build, the temple that Ezekiel talked about in chapter 43.
There's prophecy about the third temple?
Oh, yes. Yes, there's prophecy.
Can I play
about
this clip for you real quick?
Play the clip.
But one of the ideas that's common among Christian Zionists is that Christians need to help rebuild this thing called the Third Temple.
Yes.
In Jerusalem. Unfortunately, there's a mosque on the site, one of the holiest places in Islam, Aqsa Mosque. But is that something that Christians should want, to rebuild the Third Temple? What is that? Where does that idea come from? And what would happen if it were attempted?
Absolutely not. The short answer.
Okay.
Jesus in Ephesians 2, he knocked down the wall of hostility that separated the Jews and the Gentiles.
Yes.
Why are we bringing it back up? Why are we building it? There is no scripture that points to the fact that Christians need to build the Third Temple. There is no prophecy about the Third Temple. There is no way in scripture about anything close to a Third Temple.
Well, we're doing it. I mean, we're moving toward knocking down Al-Aqsa Mosque and replacing it with a Third Temple. I mean, all things being equal, that's going to happen. It was just occupied yesterday by a bunch of settlers. So this is happening in slow motion. Christians are paying for it.
Again,
what is going on?
They're putting their hopes on earthly matters, where I direct them to the faith that Abraham had, where he fixed his eyes on what eternal, the New Jerusalem.
Okay,
I have a Christian answer to that, but I want to hear the rabbinic one first.
Yeah, I don't want to get into. I'm going to let you touch.
I'm
going to let you touch on the Christian thing about knocking down the wall of hostility. I mean, someone should have sent that memo to 2,000 years of Jews butchered at the sword, at the stakes, and the Inquisition, and the Cossacks, and the pogroms, and Tucker Carlson's religion of no blood guilt that's 10 minutes old. Okay, but I mean, the fact is, Ezekiel chapter 43, verse 11. I'll go to English. Make known to them the design of the temple, its arrangements, its exits, its entrances, all its forms, all its statutes, and all its laws. Meaning it's not symbolic. There's actual architectural instructions for the Third Temple. I will set, prophet Ezekiel, I will set my sanctuary among them forever. My dwelling place shall be with them. Right? In the last days, the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established, and all nations will flow to it. That when we're praying for the temple we're praying for isn't just a Jewish temple. It's a temple for, my houses will be a house of prayer for all nations. And just as the priests are to the 12 tribes of Israel, all of Israel is to the nations of the world. We are priests in that temple to bless the nations of the world. And until we start doing it now, until we start blessing the nations now, then it's not going to happen. Meaning we have to see the world through Messiah eyes, through redemptive eyes, and hear their questions, although they're cynical and twisted. Try to get to the bottom light spark of truth in there, focus on that, and really ask ourselves inside, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing as the nation of Israel? You're asking yourselves that. That's what's led you to do what you're doing. Now you go ahead.
I'm just saying, but my approach to this whole thing is that it's absolutely not biblical. It's not a biblical narrative at all. Like he just literally obviously doesn't know his Bible to say there's no prophecy about the Third Temple. What kind of idiocy is that? I mean, that's literally not true. The Bible it points towards a future day when God's presence will be established again on the mountain of God.
Let's just be
Zion.
clear.
That's what we're all
Old Testament and New Testament.
Yeah, they both
where
agree.
Jesus actually quoted the Old Testament and said, "This will be a house of prayer for all nations." Isaiah.
Right.
So there's literally no argument for it.
So yeah, there's no argument for this kind of thing. And again, if I were to just boil this all down, I know we got to wrap up, is that there's a war against the Jews. There's those that bless Israel, and there's the curse Israel.
I feel like Jeremy still had something to say, because
that's just it. You can't.
There's a lot of smoke that's been coming out of everybody's ears. We just need to make sure.
Well, I think that it's just beautiful that the nations right now, they're all lining up to attack us. They're attacking us theologically, physically, militarily, politically. They're just everywhere. And the Jews are still holding on to the dream that we are going to build a temple in Jerusalem that will be a blessing to the world, a blessing to all those nations that are coming to attack us. And we're not going to give up that hope. We're still going to hope in the world, hope in God, hope in Jerusalem. And even if they're coming to attack us, we're really just coming here to bless them. And our blessing and our love is going to overpower all of the darkness.
We're with you.
Can I end this with a prayer? But this prayer is not my prayer. This is the prayer that King Solomon explicitly prayed during the dedication of the temple. And this is the prayer that we really need to be having in our hearts. He said, moreover, he's pleading to God, moreover, God, concerning a stranger that is not of thy people Israel, but come out of countries far and wide for your name's sake, hear their prayers in heaven, in your dwelling place, and do according to all that the stranger calls you to do, that all the people of the earth shall know your name and fear you as your people Israel do, and that they may know that this house is called by your name. Amen.
Amen.
That is the prayer right now that we need to be praying, not only for the temple, but for the nations of the world to receive God's light and blessing, including Tucker Carlson.
I was just about to say,
including him.
Tucker Carlson.
He should, I don't have any animosity and anger towards him, or I try not to most of the time. When there's just such sinister, distorted, twisted lies, it's hard not to, but I still pray for him to receive God's light and blessing and humility through compassion and mercy, and not through refinement, which could be very, very painful.
Kind of sad you forgot to talk about his rooster and stuff like that, but
right.
there's a discussion before the show. But
well, we could go for another hour, but unfortunately, we filmed this show in the corner of a cafeteria. We're trying to build a real studio this year, and I'm just mentioning this in case anyone watching wants to help sponsor a brand new studio that we're hoping to build. And then we can go for 2 hours when we're on topics like this. But we have 40 volunteers waiting outside the door to come in and eat lunch right now. So you guys are just going to have to connect with Jeremy and Ari on the fellowship.
And remember, we need gold.
More sardines. Ari needs more sardines.
That's how he's going.
So connect with the Israel guys. Connect with Ari and Jeremy at thelandofisrael.com. Guys, let us know what you think. As always, stop listening to the lies and the propaganda and connect with the truth of what's happening in Israel. We'll be back soon here at the Israel Guys.